Hello, everybody, and happy virtual happy hour. We are going to get started in just another minute or so. We've got some folks logging on, so hang in there. But we can not see you, I promise. You can see us, but we cannot see you. And we'll get started in just another minute with our third Southern virtual happy hour with our wonderful special guest all the way from Louisiana, Chanda Rubin. Hi, Chanda.
Hello, happy to be joining you. Perfect time of day. I'm nice and relaxed. I have my wine as ordered, so it didn't take much to order me around.
And I know it's no surprise to those of you who are our Louisiana friends, but do we really ever need an excuse for happy hour, Louisiana people?
Don't need much.
Here they have drive-through. What is it? Drive-through
daiquiri. Yeah, margaritas and daiquiris and every flavor with every type of alcohol. I figured that was everywhere until I kind of left and I realized no.
Nope. That's just the Louisiana thing, as far as I know.
They used to put tape around the lid so that it wasn't open container. So if you got stopped, you just had to not have the straw in it and have your tape around the lid.
That's hilarious. Okay.
Those of you looking on, we're going to get going in just another minute or two, but hang in there. We are so excited for our third virtual happy hour, and we will get going very shortly with our wonderful guest, Chanda Rubin, and of course, our Southern Section President, Bonnie Vandergrift. You should see on your screen right now, a slide that has just a couple of points to let you know. As a reminder, you should be able to see us and hear us. We cannot see you or hear you. So for those of you who want to stay in your pajamas or whatever it is that you're wearing during this time period, don't worry, we cannot see you. Be as comfortable as you want. No worries, we can't see you. I will also not be standing up because I got my bow tie on and my nice dress shirt, but that's about it. So I'm here.
Really,
that might make it more interesting. That might.
That is interesting. That's about it.
We need a slide for that. Oh, there we go.
But Chanda, last time, someone accused him of looking, he had his glasses on, and they accused him of looking like Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken.
You know, I hadn't thought of that, but you know.
So today he wants to be Santa Claus instead. He didn't want to be Colonel Sanders again.
Well, you know that hat, it just kind of makes it a little more formal. So we should all have worn some hats here.
Yeah.
And for those of you counting, we are, at least out of our USA Southern Section office, we are in week 9 of work from home. So for those of you counting on my Corona beard, coming in pretty well. I've definitely had some questions about whether it's going to continue post-coronavirus, and we'll be launching a poll to engage that on a future webinar. But for now, we're stuck with that. So.
It looks pretty well groomed. I'm curious, do you handle your own trimming and shaping?
I do. Yep.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Salon. Yep.
So I'm struggling a little bit, but you know, we're making it. But
okay, are we ready to roll, Andrew?
I think we're good. I've got a few minutes after 5 o'clock. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We're so thrilled to have our third virtual happy hour for USTA Southern. Our Southern Section President, Bonnie Vandergrift, is here out of Asheville, North Carolina. Hello, Bonnie. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And from Louisiana, we're so thrilled to have Chanda Rubin. Chanda is obviously one of our home favorites in the Southern Section. and has certainly a national stature and international stature in the world of tennis, a longtime player, and now still in the tennis world as a volunteer, as a broadcaster, as an industry specialist. So Chanda, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
I'm happy to be here and welcome everyone. Looking forward to a nice kind of relaxing cocktail hour.
Exactly. We are very intentional that this is not a webinar. This is not a training session. We are not sharing crucial, critical information. This is a happy hour, and we're going to enjoy ourselves. So a couple of quick housekeeping. If it's not evident already, you should be able to see us and hear us out there, those of you who are logged on, but we cannot see you or hear you. You're on mute, so we cannot hear you, but we certainly do want to hear from you. And if you have questions or comments or a question for Chanda that you'd like to know, please do submit that on the panel on the right side of your screen. There should be a question feature within that panel, and you can put forth a question. We're not going to promise to get to all those questions, but we'll do the best we can. And a couple other just pointers to be aware of. We, at the very end of the webinar, excuse me, at the very end of the happy hour, when we're finished, we will have a quick survey. It's 2 questions. It pops up on your screen automatically. Give us a little feedback if you wish. And post happy hour, you should get an email with a recording. So if you want to go back and see any of the particularly brilliant points that I know Chanda will be sure to share with us in the next 40 minutes, you'll get a recording link for that as well. And the other thing to be aware of, if you have not joined us in our first 2 webinars, we do have a couple of poll questions we'll be posting on the screen. We would love to hear from you and share your answers. We have some trivia about Chanda for you to test your awareness of her amazing accomplishments. So there'll be some poll questions that show up on the screen, and you should be able to choose, just like a multiple choice test, what your answer is. I think that's everything from me. Rachel, can we go to the next slide? And let's see if we're there. Okay, there we go. I see it. So have a seat, put on your pajamas or whatever comfortable clothes you got, grab your cocktail, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie Vandergrift, who is going to moderate this afternoon's happy hour. Bonnie?
Thank you, Andrew. Chanda, I'd just like to welcome you as well to our third happy hour. I also want to thank all of our Southern people out there that joined us this afternoon to get to know you a little bit better. And I also want to give a quick shout out to the behind the scenes crew. You've met Andrew and heard from him. We also have Rachel McBurney and Sophia John Levy, who have helped us put the program together. They're doing the behind the scenes stuff, so Chanda and I can just talk. So thanks to them. And I'm sure everyone knows about your successful career, remembers watching you play, and now we see a lot of you on the Tennis Channel, which is pretty exciting, and you do an amazing job at that.
Thank you.
So I think if everybody's got their beverage of choice, we're going to go ahead and make our first toast. So just here's to Chanda, and thank you for being with us. Cheers. But there's a lot more to get to, so let's
take it slowly. You're saying,
yeah.
Don't go through this. Okay. All right.
All right. So great picture of you, by the way. I love that picture of you. So let's go to our next slide, if we can. And Andrew mentioned that Chanda is from the South, and so this is going to be our first poll question for our audience. She's from the South, and she grew up and still lives in which community? So if you want to just launch that poll for us, Rachel. And while they're answering that, why don't you tell us a little bit, Chanda, about the early years and when you started playing and who first introduced you to the game?
Yeah, I started probably the way a lot of kids start, and that's being introduced to tennis by either a family member or a friend. For me, it was my parents who picked the sport up later. After they graduated from college, they settled into their jobs, and picked it up because of friends and loved it. And they would play on weekends, they would play tournaments around the area. And when I was about 2 years old, they built a house, sort of self-contracted. Back then, this is 40 plus years ago, did a lot of it themselves and decided they'd build a tennis court in the backyard. And so, had some friends help with that, looking up the dimensions from what I was told in an encyclopedia. I'm trying to figure out if that's true. It seems like it is, because there are a couple of lines on the court that maybe aren't quite as straight. But they built a tennis court in the backyard, and I grew up having tennis around me all the time, from the earliest memories. And of course, I'd go out, play with my family on weekends, early in the mornings, and it was just a part of our lives. I have an older sister, a younger brother. Everybody played. My two siblings played in college, had college scholarships. It was really a family affair, and it kind of took off from there before I even really knew what I was doing.
Let's reveal the poll if everybody's through, and then we can look at you a little bit better. So why don't we go ahead and you tell us if they got it right. Yeah.
Yes, they got it right. It is Lafayette, and 65%, 20%, not bad. Baton Rouge is not far, just about 45 minutes away. So I can understand that one. But yes, Lafayette, born and raised, and have played during my career, training in other places, but always came back home. And I was really lucky because I had a great program here in Lafayette at Red Laurel's health club that was second to none in this area, and I was able to stay home throughout much of my junior career.
Let's go back. Yeah, so we like to be able to see her when she's talking. Okay, well, fortunately, nobody said Houston, Texas, because we had pretty much given away Louisiana. So that was really good.
That was a hint. That's okay. We like hints sometimes.
Yeah, that was a hint. So this next slide in the middle of this picture is Nehemiah Atkinson. And Nehemiah was a great player in his own right, and also from Louisiana. And he had a tremendous influence on tennis in Louisiana. And he was also a mentor of yours. So can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Nehemiah and what he meant to you?
Well, from some of my earliest memories of playing tournaments in Louisiana, traveling, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and sort of the surrounding areas, Nehemiah Atkinson was a staple. I mean, he was playing tennis, is unbelievable, playing and winning, still moving great, athletic, well into his 80s. And for me, it was always, phenomenal to see the spirit, to see the love of the game, his passion for the sport and for giving back. And I remember a couple of times, 1 or 2 summers of going and hitting with him, having that experience and, taking in just how he approached the game. He also played won a doubles tournament with my mom when I was a kid. And so this is amazing to me. It's like, he was bringing her along, he was the star. And the humility, I always remember just how he felt, seeing him at these tournaments, seeing how he went about, the sport, how he taught, how he gave back some of his knowledge. And that always really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's exciting. So was your mom a really good player as well? I mean, was she the one that really pushed you more, or was it both of your parents?
No, it was a bit of both. I mean, my mom was a good athlete. You know, she was more of a track athlete in high school, into college, but she became a teacher, taught for 30 something years, and tennis just became a bit of a passion. And she was competitive, so I think I got a bit of that from her. But she just loved the game. I remember one of the times, I think I was 9 years old. My mom was playing league tennis at a park called Beaver Park here in Lafayette, and one of the ladies couldn't make it. Maybe she was sick. It was something that happened, but they needed a fourth. And, you know, I went out with my mom, and, you know, my mom said, well, you know, my daughter can play. And they looked at me like, oh, we're going to kill her if she plays with her daughter. So they're like, sure, yeah, put her in. And at 9, I was decent. And so, of course, my mom and I won, and they were so mad. I think that was the last time they agreed to let me kind of fill in. But I had some really, really amazing memories with, you know, my family, but my mom in particular, because she was the one who traveled with me to probably most of my junior tournaments and certainly into my early years in the pros. And, you know, it was just a special relationship with her love and understanding of the game, but she didn't coach me. Neither of my parents did. And I think that was an important part of it as well. They were always my parents first.
That's exciting. And you turned pro at
Hmm.
fairly young age, I would say, at 15 years old. Is that right? Tell
I
us a little.
did.
Yeah, tell us a little
Yeah.
about that decision, how you decided to now is the time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's one of those things that obviously for me, and I won't say obviously, but, you know, education was always important. So going to college, you know, that would have been, I think, a fantastic experience. But when I got to around 13 years old, going into 14 years old, I started playing some smaller challengers. You know, it was, you know, doing well nationally. I'd started playing up. You know, it was right around playing 18s nationals around, you know, 14 and 15, and looking to transition, playing those pro events. And so it's tough to then, at that stage for me, it was tough to then say, okay, I'm going to wait and go to college and continue to develop. I feel like I would have lost time. And that was kind of how my parents looked at it as well. They never really pressured, you know, sort of made a big deal about the decision. But I just remember one year at the US Open, I played, you know, the qualifying the year before. And then the next year, you know, I'd won some rounds in the main draw. I'd gotten into the top 100, combination of, you know, some of my results at ITF and USTA events. And I remember it was like, oh, I guess I'm going to turn pro and just check the box. I was professional, and I was 15. It didn't seem like a huge deal at the time. You know, it had been part of the conversation. It had been part of what I certainly wanted to do and was looking forward to doing. But it just felt like once I got into the top 100, I felt like, okay, I can play at this level. I'm going to keep improving, you know, keep building my game. But I feel confident that I can make it. And yeah, I was 15. Could have been older, but it happened at 15, and
I think
haven't really looked back.
yeah, it worked out pretty well for you, I'd say. Let's look at the next slide, and this is going to require another toast.
Oh, I love toast. Love
Yes.
to- And it's
So
raining here, so this is like a perfect afternoon. Just relax at home, have a little glass of wine. I can hear the rain, and it's just really soothing. So it's
okay,
just
well,
nice.
good. Well, so we're going to answer the next poll in just a second, but this is about the year that you won the Australian Open doubles title and you became number 6 in the world. So a Grand Slam title is a big deal. So we're going to toast to that. So cheers to that.
Cheers.
And Rachel, you can put up that next poll. So let's see how good they are. Which year was it that Chanda won the Australian Open doubles? And I think we might just let them vote if it's going to be a quick one, because they only have 4 choices there. So
They should get that one, right? Like, for sure.
you think?
So I turned pro in 1991. I can kind of give that away, right?
Okay, so she turned pro in 1991.
I was still in high school, so I was playing kind of a partial schedule for a couple of years, and then in 93 graduated and was able to kind of start full time. So does that help a little?
So Was this the biggest day of your career, do you think, when you won that title?
It was definitely, I had some progressions, certainly the previous year, but yes, this was
Okay.
up there.
Let's reveal the results and see how they did.
Oh.
Let's
Oh,
see. Whoa.
close.
So what year was it?
It was 96. So the 25%, they got it.
Got it right.
They got it right.
So okay, so we can go back to the previous slide or however you're going to do it so we can see. Yes, there you are. So 1996 was a really great year for you, I think. You won that match with Arantxa Sanchez Vicario, but you also played her in singles that year at the Australian Open. So can you tell us what you remember about that match? Because I think that was a big win for you. And
yes, it was an incredible match. It went, what was it, in the 16-14 in the third set. And one of the things was that year they had been building up the potential meeting in the quarterfinals of Andre Agassi and Jim Courier. So when the draw came out, like, that was the big story. And, were they going to get there? And this was going to be a huge blockbuster match. And they got there. And their quarterfinal match was following my match with Arantxa in singles. And we played for over 3.5 hours. And this crowd at a certain point was like, okay, where are the men? When are the men coming out? Like, it was, and it was funny. It wasn't in a real disrespectful way, because I understood it too. I said, I'm trying to get off the court, but it was an incredible competitive battle. Arantxa is and was one of the best competitors in the game. And certainly I felt like I was a good competitor. And it was just one of those matches that it was hard for any one person to win. And, when you get into the third sets and you're playing it out, once you get past a certain point, both players are in a rhythm. It's really hard to break serve at that stage. And, even when you're down in service games, you kind of find a way to win just on rhythm. And it was that type of match. But thankfully, I was able to kind of edge her out, but it was a battle.
And so that puts you into the semifinals of the
semifinals. Yeah, against Monica Seles in the semis. And that was the one major that she won after the stabbing. She came through there. I lost to her 7-5 in the third. Another, really, really fantastic match. Disappointing for me on that one. But there are memories I won't ever forget. And to have to be able to come back after that tough match against Arantxa, sometimes you play and you're so competitive, it can be hard to kind of be friends again once you are done with the match. And she was such a professional. She never skipped a beat. Like, good match, fought hard, let's get ready to play doubles, let's do it. And we didn't miss a beat. We're seamless in terms of how we played together, even after battling that hard against each other.
Do you have hi, Andrew. This is what he does.
He pops in. Just appeared.
Does that mean we have another question from Drew Myers that we need to answer? He's frozen. So Drew, or somebody asked this question: who coached you over the years, and what aspect of your game, mental, physical, strokes, etc., did each coach impact the most? That might take an hour for you to answer. So
yeah, that would.
Who was your coach?
Well, I coming up in Lafayette, my coach was John Bryan, and he had sons who played that coached in the program here in Lafayette. So he was my main coach in terms of fundamentals and teaching me how really the staples, in terms of how to hit the ball, contact point, competing, how to practice, training, the work ethic. We would get up early in summers. And so a lot of what I kind of learned and was a base for my tennis. I learned here in that program under John Bryan, but also Ashley Roney, who I would practice with, and he became my coach when I started traveling more as a young pro. A guy named Marcel Freeman, who really helped me understand more of the strategy. He was a fantastic player in his own right, had gotten to around 50 in the world, and really taught me how to play and go against different opponents and how to maybe make little adjustments depending on the opponent. A lot of players talk about just playing their game, and I'm going to play my game no matter what. It doesn't matter who I play, and that's great, and that is how you want to feel. But sometimes you do have to make little changes. You do have to understand how to adjust to maximize your game. So, you know, those were some important years, and I got to top 10 for the first time under Marcel. And then Benny Sims was also major influence. He was my coach for the last 10 years or so of my career. And a lot of how I think about the game and how I talk about the game and my understanding at the deeper levels is because of him, and sort of how we talked, you know, at dinners, after matches, you know, after tough losses, you know, as well as, you know, the wins, how he kind of broke down the game. And so I've been fortunate to have some really good coaches, and also good people who helped me get better, you know, that I used to be able to hit and train with. I think I hit with Drew at times, and, you know, we would go at it. And that as well was a huge influence in terms of my growth in tennis.
Well, let's go to the next slide. Somebody taught you how to dig deep, because in a very famous comeback, you beat Yana Novotná in the French Open after being down in the third set. So we're going to launch the poll and see if the folks can figure out what the score was in that third set that you came back from.
Yes.
And so tell us, without giving away the score, because no matter what, it was a big comeback. But tell us what your memory is of this match.
You know, it's interesting. I kind of touched on it a little bit when I talked about the year before the Australian Open breakthrough, that I had some breakthroughs, you know, that previous year. And, you know, this was certainly a big moment for me. Yana Novotná, rest in peace, a tremendous champion. You know, she was top 5 at the time. This was at the French Open on, you know, the stadium court. And, you know, this was a major moment for me, and it was huge for my confidence, for my understanding of what I needed to do to kind of keep moving forward, keep progressing. And it kind of helped. I look at this match as sort of signaling my start of rising into the top 10 for the first time. So it was a pretty important match.
Okay, so let's see how the crew did on this one.
Ooh. That is good. Yeah, it's super close.
All right,
so
tell us what it was.
The 37% is correct, but it's the purple. Love 5, love 40 in the third. Yeah, it's
okay,
pretty
so
crazy.
let's see. Let me see her again, Rachel. Go off of this, because
that was insane.
This deserves another toast.
I'll drink to that one.
Yeah, you should definitely drink to that one. That was amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, that match, obviously, you know, love 5, love 40. I wasn't thinking I was going to win. I don't know that anybody would say, oh, I'm going to come back and you know, get all the way to the finish line. You know, it was more about not giving up. And I remember the moment. It's one of the moments in a match that stands out, because I was so excited, you know, playing her, you know, looking for my first top 10 win. You know, she was 5 at the time, 5 in the world, and I'd won the first set. Tough first set, but I won it. I was like, oh yes, I'm there. You know, and you start thinking about the win, and everything fell apart at that point. I was thinking of the exact opposite of what I needed to be thinking of, and it showed. And very quickly, she won the second set and got up 5 love, 40 love. And at that exact moment, you know, something kind of just changed in terms of my focus. I mean, I knew I was going to lose, so I stopped focusing on the winning. I didn't even think that I was going to make it through. I started in my head, packing my bags, started thinking about, okay, I got to call my travel agent, got to get a flight out tomorrow. Like, oh, that's the worst. Like, that's the worst part as a player, when you're like thinking, okay, the disappointment that I'm going to have to go through and leaving early. And once I kind of dealt with that thought, then I thought to myself, but I like it here. We're in a nice place. We're in a nice apartment, a nice flat on the river. We've got great views. My mom was there cooking, food from home. And I said, I just want to stay a little longer. And literally that was my only thought. One more point. I'm on Philippe Chatrier. I mean, it's nice. One more point. I get that point, and it just starts snowballing from there. Literally one more point, one more point. She, of course, got tight. But for me, it was I just settled in. And it's one of those moments that for the rest of my career, I could sort of draw from, because of course you're going to think wrong thoughts. Of course, you're going to think about winning. When you get to those moments, you're going to have nerves. You're going to have all these negative thoughts that can kind of come into play and change how you're playing. But I learned from that match and that moment how to at least recognize it as early as possible, pull it back, and how to refocus. And so it was a huge growing moment for me, apart from the win itself.
So do you think that's something that you can actually teach kids today, or do they have to get in that moment themselves and fight through it?
I think everybody has to learn. There are some key moments that kind of help you learn it and help it sort of solidify. And really, it can only happen under pressure, when it counts, when you want to win. It's hard to practice it. You can't really simulate that in a practice match even. So I think it's just a combination. You can kind of try to teach it and work on it, but for that player, it's these moments for growth that occur during competition, and those are the special ones. Sometimes they happen with losses. If you're lucky, they can happen with the win, and it kind of changes your perspective and helps you become a better player then.
Absolutely. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, I'm back. So, and Bonnie sort of asked the question. I was going to go there too, Chanda. Is that something you can teach to kids? But let me ask it another way. As we have a lot of folks out there who coach kids, and either professionally or just as parents and recreationally, something you can kind of recognize in kids, those kids who kind of have that grit or that resilience. Is that something that you can, that those of us who are coaches or working with kids on court can kind of recognize?
I definitely think you can. I think that's one of the most important factors is, sort of that inner grit, that inner desire to just battle, even when it seems like it's futile, even when it appears that, you're not gonna overcome, to just stay in there and just hang for as long as you can. I mean, literally, that's what happened to me in that match. There's times where you don't think you're maybe going to win, or you're disappointed, you're frustrated with yourself, and you're not even in that frame of mind. But if you have, that mindset of just fighting, just battling each point, just, whatever you can do to kind of give yourself a chance, I think that's huge. And so you can certainly see it. I think you can recognize it. That part, I think, is hard to teach. I think kids can learn it. You can certainly teach them how to compete at their best. That's something, I mean, you play practice sets, you kind of work on it, you work through it. You work on your mindset, even when you're in practice and you're drilling, or you're going through, your different, routines, your different patterns. You can practice that positive mindset. You can practice kind of taking negatives and trying to just put them out of your mind and working from a better place in your head. So I definitely think you can practice that. But it's one of the most important things in the game, and certainly more important at times than how to hit a forehand and a backhand.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So we've talked a little bit about a lot of your longer matches. You had a really tough one with Arantxa. You came back from this one. So there was another one though. So we're gonna go to the next slide. And Chanda holds the record, and it still stands.
I don't know how.
Wimbledon. And so let's go ahead and launch that poll and see if they can come up with whether it was 48 games, 58 games, or 68 games.
Now I'm kind of nervous on this one because I kind of forgot for a minute how many games. I remembered the score of the last set.
I know the answer. Just in
I might
case
need you to answer this one. I think I know, but I'm gonna need confirmation.
Well, I'll answer it. But tell us, so at Wimbledon now, have they changed the rules so that this record is actually going to stand forever? Because you can only go so far in the third set now, is that, or do you know?
Yeah, I mean they've changed it now to a tie break, at 12 all.
12 all
in the final set. So that would limit.
This one might be forever. So let's see how they did, Rachel. See how many people got this one right. Wow.
Oh wow.
Do you think they got it right?
I think they got it right.
Yep. So that's right.
Impressive.
58 games, and that means the score was 7-6, 6-7, 17-15.
I mean, I still can't believe that one. I almost blocked that one out. It was kind of more dramatic.
We can go to the next. We can go back to. There you go. It was more traumatic.
It was a little more traumatic. It was against a good friend of mine, Patricia Boulay. Her husband, Yves Boulay, was her coach, became the coach of Allison Risk when she came out. Really, really good player, knowledgeable player, and just fun to play against because we would practice together. But this match, for some reason, I felt like it was the worst tennis. And I don't know if because it was on grass. And, we were both battling and competing well, but I'm so glad it's over. I think when it was done, I was like, oh, did I win? I didn't even really know.
Yeah.
Just glad it was over.
That's funny. So do you have let's go to the next slide, but do you have a favorite Grand Slam to play that you enjoy playing in the most?
I mean, all of them are different. I mean, anybody who's been there, who's sort of felt the atmosphere, you kind of know. It's hard to compare. But Australia will always kind of have a special place with me because it was where I won, my doubles Grand Slam, the semifinal result. There were just a lot of important things that happened there. And I always had good results in Australia. It was pretty consistent. So I would say that one. But every American, the US Open is huge. And Wimbledon is just a different feel. It's kind of like the cathedral. And so, of course, you want to do well there. And then surprisingly for me, I've had pretty good and consistent results at Roland Garros. I've had a number of quarterfinals. That was the place of a huge breakthrough for me. So each one is a little bit different and kind of has some special moments for me. But I think Australia.
Okay.
A little bit.
Andrew, are you giving us a time warning?
I'm checking. I do have a time. And then we're also getting a little bit of just started in the last minute or so.
A little feedback, right?
Huh.
Would it help if I put some headphones on?
It sounds fine to me. I haven't noticed it, but
I'm the one like giving the feedback. I'm talking and then I hear myself delayed.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if it would help if you want to put your earphones in, but so
And I know we're 3 minutes into the last 2 minutes anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, let's.
We'll put in and hope for the best for the last few minutes.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna change gears a little bit and talk about your life after the tour, and tell us a little bit how you got into broadcasting and the process, any challenges, just a little bit about how that worked out.
Yeah, it was something I tried while I was still playing. So I did like a little guest appearance. I remember with Mary Carrillo, which was huge, but I mean, I didn't know exactly what I was doing. And I just remember it being a fun experience. And so when I had the opportunity again, it was when towards the end of my career, I had some injuries, was struggling to get back, but was still trying. But while I was injured, I said, okay, I have an opportunity with Tennis Channel to commentate for the French Open for those 2 weeks. And I did it for 2 weeks. And that was sort of a real kind of jump into it with the ebbs and flows, day to day, how it sort of works, getting some consistent reps, and I enjoyed it. And so once I decided to retire, it was certainly an opportunity I was looking to do more with and try to get more opportunities. And over the last, probably the first 3 or 4 years from after my retirement, I didn't do it as consistently. Had got into some entrepreneurial things, investing in real estate, but I would kind of jump in here or there. And then probably 3 or 4 years ago, I became, kind of a staple with Tennis Channel, and things have just opened up since then. It's been fantastic to work with them. I've grown a lot. Like anything, you get reps, you get practice, you kind of figure out, your voice and how you want to try to, convey what you're thinking, how you've thought about the game as a player, which is a little bit different than when you have to talk about it and analyze someone's match. And so it's been fun to kind of grow through that process as well. I think I've lost. Okay, there we go. I lost your sound for a second.
Yeah, I thought somebody else had muted me, but maybe I did it myself. Okay. Well, that's exciting. And that deserves a toast because you do a great
Absolutely.
job.
Well, thank you.
Yep, we've been watching you during the pandemic. So.
Harper, okay. What are you doing? You want to come say hello?
Oh.
Come on. She's lurking. She's lurking on the sidelines.
This big little girl.
You say hello? Are we going to be shy today or not? Are we going to be shy or not shy today? Okay. Not shy. Oh, okay. Not shy. She says we're going to be not shy today.
So cute. And what is your name, Harper?
Harper. Are we Harper or just Harper?
Harper Grace. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
This is you, Mom.
That is me. Yes. That's my picture.
So,
Mommy, why don't we see that?
Okay, now you can't block my picture though. Okay, we gotta share the picture. Is that okay?
We know volunteering is important to you as well. I think that might be the slide back, maybe. I'm not sure, Rachel, but yes, there we go. So yeah, you have volunteered a lot. And so our final poll question, I think, is we're going to let everybody choose which of the following Chanda has volunteered for. And while they're filling that out, you also served on the board of the USTA during a pretty exciting time in the association's life. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience, especially, kind of seeing the other side. As a player, you see it from that perspective, from, what you need to play your best tennis, and everything is sort of organized already, and you just fit right into it. And to kind of be on the other side, the business side, to be a part of the USTA board, with all the decision making that comes into play, from, television, to sponsors, to just on site, how you make improvements, how you deal with issues that come up when you're putting on an event of that size, for everything, across the board, and just the organization as a whole. A lot of people don't realize how big the organization is, how many moving parts, and how many people work together to provide opportunities for tennis, to create support for tennis players around this nation. And so it's just a fantastic experience, and I was lucky to be on some really terrific boards. I think you're muted again. I can't hear you. Or is it me?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Andrew is muting me because he doesn't want to hear it. No.
Maybe that feedback. I think the feedback. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the results of this poll. And look.
What?
Are they right?
How did everybody?
100%.
That's impressive.
That's pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Because I do believe that is the correct answer. So tell us quickly, since we are, oh, there he is. He's going to tell us we're out of time. Tell us quickly about your foundation, and then what you're doing currently, some of the things that you're doing with your time during the pandemic.
Well, I started my foundation when I was still playing. My parents were always encouraging me, to think of others, to try to create opportunities where I could give back, and just do things that I felt passionate about, and trying to help kids create opportunities to play tennis, and, to further their education was important. And so I've enjoyed it. I've had events, raising money. I've put my own money into, funding it at times, created, some scholarships for kids. And one of the most important things I feel that the foundation did was create a circuit of ITF junior tournaments, which the USTA eventually took over. But those tournaments continued. It was before that, no ITF events for juniors here in this country. And so that was an important thing for me, and something I'm proud of having, created. And currently, apart from Tennis Channel work, apart from being a mom and kind of, doing the homeschool thing during this stay-at-home time, I'm also doing a show with Zena Garrison, Game Set Chat. So that's been a lot of fun. We have really relaxed conversations similar to this, but we've been, talking with some different players and sports figures, and that has been fantastic. And it's all been an effort to kind of connect during this period, to provide some relaxation time as we're doing here, and use this time to our advantage, and so hopefully we can continue with that. I know you're laughing, but you're still muted now. Andrew, I need to hear about me.
Okay.
But yeah, this is where people can follow either me or follow Game Set Chat as well.
Yes. So you do the Game Set Chat weekly, is that right?
We've been doing it weekly, and our past shows are up on our group Facebook page. And, of course, you can also check us out on YouTube as well. We're creating a channel with all of our chats. So it's been a lot of fun. We had Billie Jean, our very first chat, and we've just been going since then.
Okay. Well, we are out of time. In fact, we've gone over again, so I'm going to get into it. But thank you so much. Here's cheers to you. And I hope everybody will go on and listen to your Game Set Chat. I listened to this week, and it was fun. And I want to remind everybody that next week, Shelby Fitzpatrick is going to be taking over this seat and talking to Todd Martin. And I know Todd is a friend of yours, so that's our next virtual happy hour. Don't forget to click the poll that's going to come up, and Andrew, you have any closing remarks? And we just really appreciate it. It's been fun, Chanda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chanda.
Thank you. It's been fun.
All right. Everybody have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.